Hi, welcome to Painless Universal, a conversation with me, Anne Welsh. Today's guest is someone I've known for a very long time. She and I started our first, when I started my first job at Lehman Brothers, she was there to hold my hand and guide me. And since then, we've stayed friends. She's so inspirational that I thought I had to reach out to her to share her story. She's a mother and who's overcome challenges of being a mother. And she's also a leader in the fashion industry. She's doing amazing things there. And I want you to meet my dear friend, Jennifer. Hi guys, welcome again to Painless Universal, a live conversation with my dear friend, Jennifer. As I said previously in the introduction, I've known Jennifer since our days at Lehman Brothers. She and I worked together, and ever since, our close bond has never faded away. I want you to do, Jennifer, my darling, thank you so much for being here, and tell us where you're joining us from.
Well, I'm joining you from, hello everybody, nice to be here, and thank you very much, Anne, for inviting me on your YouTube series. It's great to be part of your activity, because you're very active online, so thank you very much for including me. I am speaking from Togo, which is a West African country. It's a Francophone African country. I'm in the capital state, Lomé.
Wow, I'm so happy that you. I can't believe that we have this connection, and it's actually very clear. The reason I really wanted you to join me on this inspirational conversation, because I started this platform because everyone thinks chronic illness is just the pain that people go through, or people think it's physical pain, just being pain of, like for me, my pain was always sickle cell anemia. So, but I thought to myself, even when I was writing my book, Painless, I realized that pain is different for everyone. People might suffer sickle cell pain, and I remember your story. I remember you went through all these challenges, and every day I look at you, I always feel inspired. I feel inspired as a woman who's going to be 40, still a little bit nervous. I want us to talk about what it's like, what I should expect, or people out there should expect as a woman turning 40. I want you to also mention a little bit about motherhood. Motherhood after 40. Tell us what your challenge is, because a lot of women out there are struggling, and because they've not met the right one, they're still so nervous. Would that happen? Then finally, I think our final conversation will dwell on what you're doing now, because you're doing something really amazing, and I want the world to know about it. And when this whole coronavirus is over, I would want you to do a fashion show in London with myself. I would join you on that, so we could showcase what you're doing. But let's start with the journey of turning 40. Could you please tell me, what do we expect? What should people like myself and others out there who is going on this life-changing journey of turning 40, what should we expect?
Wow, okay. Well, turning 40. So you're suggesting that I have turned 40, right?
I don't know.
Which I have, yes. I am in my 50s, yes. And I am a mother. I have 3 boys who call me mum. I also have a grandson who will call me grandma. So I'm in a good place at the moment to be able to be called mum. My older boy is 25 years old, and he is my foster son. So he's orphaned from. He's orphaned, and I took him on when I was in my 30s, very early in my 30s. I took him on living in the UK. And I met him in Africa on a visit to Africa, and I found that there was some stigma around AIDS, HIV/AIDS, which his parents had passed on from. And when they told me about the child who was sitting right on the floor next to me, they laughed about the fact and how his parents passed on, and that now he's been sent off for child labor. I was in my early 30s visiting Africa, and at that point I stood up to the elders and I said to them, now I'm making an announcement here. This boy sitting here from today onwards, don't send him away. Let him stay with the family, with his siblings, and I will be his sponsor. And that was all I thought I was, and I was his sponsor. I didn't know that past my 30s, living in London, in Lehman Brothers, and doing our lives, the normal life.
You came back from your holiday.
It's been a long time, yes. That I would also relocate to Nigeria, which it wasn't in the plan, but it happened. And by that time, I was past my 40s. I think I was just about entering my 40s. Yes. Yes, I was almost 40.
You were almost 40. I remember that. You were not 40 yet. You were almost 40, because I remember we talking about what you're going to do. And I said to you, you said to me, I just did this thing. I went to Nigeria and I just did this. What did you do? He's like, I just adopted a child. Like, what?
Yes.
So I'll never get that. So, yeah. And you said it wasn't a baby.
Professionally, life was okay, in the UK, but I wasn't, I have to say that I didn't have that urgency, that motherhood urgency, that craving to be the mother, or the cry, or the yearn for it. But I knew in my spirit on another visit that the boy that is my son was my son. So I went through the procedure, which was very rigorous and thorough. And I then had my boy, who, yes, is adopted right now. And that moved me out of the UK into Nigeria as my permanent residence, so that I took on fully my Nigerian nationality and my son as a Nigerian, and lived in Nigeria as a single mother. Whilst I was there, then I invited my foster son, who was then schooling, and he moved in. So then suddenly, before 40, I was now a mother of two, with 2 kids in the house as a single mother. So I became a single mother probably overnight. I became mom, I want this, mom, I want that, mom, where is this? And the provider and everything and all that. And yes, it was challenging. I didn't have any financial support. My job went in between. So then I was dependent on the very small income I received from the UK and support from my family. So I became a single mom with very, very lower income than I ever had, and 2 boys who were dependent on me for their growth, their nourishment, and everything, in a country that was very new to me. And I would say that, yes, I cried many times. I wondered, could I do it? And it was very strange. I was alone, because people were going through their lives as well. And I think it was difficult for people to see my circumstance and reach out and help me. It was unusual for the people who knew me, because the step I had taken was grandiose and almost altruistic and very overly charitable. I don't know, but I was dealing with my journey being a parent, and an automatic parent. Mind you, my son was young. I took him on as a baby. So being a parent to a baby, and the foster kid was 11, 12 at that point, so I had 2 age groups suddenly. But to deal with it, I had to deal with the anxiety, the pain, the concern, and also the knowledge that, stigma is single parent. On the outside, people saw me as a single mother who had they didn't look alike. They looked totally different. So it looked like I had 2 kids from 2 different men. And so relationships weren't going to happen at all. Men were shying away from me. So I had actually cut out a lot from my life at that point.
Wow, that's so encouraging. This is really deep. I want to know how you got to where you are today, how you overcome that challenge of being a single mom, having 2 kids, adopted kids as well, not like they're your own kids, so you took these kids on. How did you get to the next level? Many people listening out there are now very curious and eager on their seat, want to know this bit.
Okay, well, for me, pain had become a familiar terminology for me, actually, at that time. I have a strong affiliation to you, Anne, primarily, actually, I have a strong affiliation towards your mother and your siblings. I always think about your mother, and I always think about your sisters. Why? Because I had a brother with sickle cell, and I was the sister who watched him go through the crisis. I grew up watching my brother in pain and my mother in anxious. And unfortunately, we lost him to sickle cell. And we lived with the pain of his pain. And my mother still hasn't quite recovered from the loss of her son. And so we are a family that is brought up with the pain of somebody who had suffered from sickle cell, and it sort of brought a little bit of a fracture in the family setup and created a different dynamic for us. And so it's very hard. So as a sibling, to lose a sibling, and it's, and my sister and I, how we deal with the fact that we don't have our brother in chem anymore with us. So and the family around us know him, and he was the only male in the family for Africa. It's quite significant. So I was familiar with pain anyways, and then my mother's pain, my pain of that, and dealing with it. I had gone through some therapy to deal with that pain in the UK because it was quite intense on my heart and my soul. But by the time I took on the life I had taken on, I had learned how to position my pain elsewhere, and I found faith. So I'm reputable for being a girl of enormous faith.
Yeah.
Sitting there with a baby and a little boy and nobody except trickling bits and bobs coming in from the UK, and my professional life now a little bit far away because now I'm a mother bringing up kids, and also my potential of being a wife or a girlfriend because I'm a single mother was a little bit bleak, and the age was high. Yeah. I had no other way to look other than within into my soul and into my spirit and find a God that I could cry and lay my pain at his feet and say, like, you're going to have to take this on because, I can't do it. It's pretty much, Jesus, take the wheel. I'm letting go. I can't do it. I don't have the strength to handle this pain. And I think, I'm sure that it made it easier for me because suddenly I probably started living like somebody with an outer body experience. So I elevated myself. I lifted myself out of the pain, even though the pain was there and the issues were there. And I placed it somewhere that I learned how to trust. And somehow I then took my physical body out. I became Bob the Builder, they used to call me. The English people in London used to call me. I started doing all kinds of jobs like interior decoration, and then I started doing operational work, and then I was driving up and down, and I was interacting with the locals, and I was very super active. At the same time, placing the children within a church system so they had a community around them, so they didn't feel any pain of not having a father and having another community, even though they didn't have as much money. I learned how to receive from the poor, because I was now the poor, and love the poor, and allow myself and my children and all of us to grow up amongst them. I fell in love with Nigeria in a different way, and at the same time, I was able to take my focus off the pain and put my focus on love and community and thriving, and so was I.
So how did you find joy in all of this? Because I know you have a son now, I know you're married, and you also have a successful business. How did you get there? Please go on to this part now. We need to know this because I'm itching to see.
So I'm a woman set free with 2 kids. I am all over Lagos, meeting people. Now meeting the best kind of people you could ever meet in Nigeria. The road is open. I think my story is being told. I don't know. People are saying, oh, actually, oh, no, and all that. And doors are opening up. And suddenly, something that was always my dream when I was a child, I always wanted to be in trade and commerce on a director level. I wanted to be operational. I always knew I was a boardroom type person, that I could strategically strategically plan, I could tactically plan. I knew I had a big picture type of planning, and I also knew I had all the skills, having worked in Lehman Brothers, KPMG, and also other industries in the UK, and worked all my life, you know. And suddenly I had this other thing that I spoke German. After my education, I actually lived in Germany and did a German language course. I worked in Germany, but that was all in the cupboards. You know, there were like cobwebs in the cupboards. And one day happened that, you know, as it happened, as my kids were thriving, doing well in school, and, you know, we had all the pets, the animal, the tortoise, you know, the cat, the dogs and everything, and the house was bustling and life was going. We lived in a good area now, and, you know, I was taking walks, being out in the open, and, you know, I was rich. I stumbled across an opportunity that they were looking for somebody to be the chief operating officer for the Nigerian German Business Association. They had been looking for years. They needed someone who spoke German and had operational skills as well. I went for the interview. I knew the job was mine, and whilst I was in the interview wondering, okay, God, how is this going to work? I didn't realize that one of the interviewees was falling in love with me right there and then, you know? So he had to go on his journey and figure out why he was falling in love with me. I became the chief operating officer for the Nigerian German Business Association. Later became the director general. The man couldn't hold it anymore, and he had to tell me how he has been feeling for so long. And then I realized, when I took a good look at him, that yes, that was the man of my dreams, and he's my husband today. And we now have a beautiful baby boy who I've had through IVF and first attempt, and I gave birth to him at the Lindo, so no poverty anywhere near us anymore. You know, everything changed and turned around, and I gave birth to my son, who is, so I have 3 boys now, and he's 2.5 years old. And my husband is German, and he's probably, in fact, he's the best husband I could ever. I mean, he's my best partner, the best I could ever, you know, and he shares my faith journey. His own is unique and absolutely beautiful and gorgeous. And so we have a lot in common. He's my biggest supporter. He's smarter than me, which is a very, very important part that makes a compatible relationship. And I speak German, so I can interact with his family. We have a great family, and he is now representing Germany in Togo, and I am his accompanying spouse building.
No, absolutely. I every day I hear your story, or whenever I try to feel a little bit confused about life, I always have to think about your story, because I think it's so inspirational, so motivating, and I think a lot of people out there will not believe what you've been through and how you kept persistent, how you kept going. You just didn't let anything get to you. Another key thing for me is that tell us a little bit about your fashion and how you went from doing the thing in Germany and this embassy, and now doing this fashion.
Yes.
How did you get into it?
Okay.
So, and I love fashion.
All right. Yes, we all do, don't we? Well, you see, this is the thing. I mean, I didn't intend on making this a faith talk, but if anybody really tries to delve into my personal life, then you will be hearing a lot of faith in my personal life, because a lot of the things I'm talking about, my natural personality, my character couldn't do it, because I'm not that type of super efficient and super whatever it is that gets these type of results. Fashion was an interest of mine in the beginning. I worked for Vogue, Condé Nast, UK. I also was the first, we set up the first Calvin Klein flagship store. And I was super confident enough to also be an independent PR consultant in fashion. In fact, I was headhunted whilst I was a PR consultant to work for Vogue. I didn't apply for Vogue. I was headhunted to work in Vogue. So I had a good CV for fashion because I had an interest in fashion, and I had an interest in the business of fashion. So there was merchandising there, there's PR there, and there is media in there. I didn't go to design school, but I have a flair for fashion, and I understand the business. So as the journey went, and I ended my career as the Director General in Nigeria and moved on with my husband to accompany him as an accompanying spouse. As I was exiting, I found out that Nigeria was shifting away from the oil dependency, and we needed to revive other industries within Nigeria. And looking into Nigeria, one of those industries that needed to be revived that could help the country was the Nigerian garment and textile manufacturing industry. So I went on to put together several manufacturing, textile manufacturing, garment industry conferences and conventions, bringing all the key stakeholders together to try and build this industry in my role as the Director General. And in that process, I found out that it revived my previous interest, and I had an opportunity via the Africa Fashion Week London platform. They offered me an opportunity to showcase my fashion interest when I told them I had it in London, which I did in 2016, and I got an order for 200 stores worldwide, from 5 pieces on the catwalk, which I couldn't meet because I was still the Director General, and I just did a show just because of my interest. But that order told me that that's why people are in fashion. You're in fashion because you want the buyers to say that's good, and the buyer just confirmed I was good. So I knew it was time for me to move into my fashion brand, and that was the birth of Victoria Grace, the fashion brand, which is an Afro-European, or it's a blend of cultures. It's a brand that blends culture. So because I move around and I have a lot of blends, I'm British born, a Nigerian heritage, married to a German, and we meet different cultures. So I get influenced by food and travel and fashion, and I want to mix the cultures with a blend, a touch of Africa in everything. So at the moment, because it's strongly European, so there's a touch of Africa on my European clothing, or the old dress which I'm wearing is just the only purely African outfit, which is just a modern boo-boo. Reminds me of my grandmother and my mother and everybody who put on a boo-boo to cook or to go to the market or to wrap their hair in.
Right now we're working from home.
Yes. So this is the modern boo-boo that I'm bringing back, just so that we don't lose that boo-boo and we can all fling it up. So this one is the classic, purely African, but the rest, the main brand is always a fusion of cultures, and that's what I'm building here in Lome. And like I said, I'm influenced by the cultures where I am, and so I'm also primarily advocating and promoting upcycling and sustainability, because in Lome and in Ghana, there's landfill, there are big dumps of clothing coming from the West that is burning 24 hours, and there's big second-hand markets here. So it's a duty as a fashion designer in this location to turn that into usable wear and turn it back and put it back into the market. So in the recent months or in the last year, I have been primarily focused on upcycling and sustainability in fashion.
Wow. Well, Jennifer, I think anyone listening to this story would be amazed about how you've overcome pain. For me, I love your fashion, and I think this is a time, what you do is so suitable for now that people be working a lot more from home, because it's all about being comfortable while working from home. So we don't need to be in those tight outfits, but it's being comfortable. And your outfits are also very sustainable as well, which you talked very heavily about, because I think at this time, with everything that's gone on, we've seen how clean the air is. So we probably really need to rethink fashion, rethink how we use our clothes, reusing them, and that's something your clothing line is very, very, very heavily on. In a quick summary, what inspiration would you give someone out there, someone who's looking to have a kid, someone who's looking to get married, someone who's looking to start a business? Just in quick summary, how would you encourage to tell them they could overcome their pain? What word would you give them? If I'm coming to you, for example, and I'm asking you, Jennifer, I'm going through this, how would you tell me, what would you tell me that I could do to overcome my pain?
Well, my simple word is be kind. Be kind to others and be kind to yourself. There's power in it. If you can be kind to, Christianity, they say love your enemies, or they say the most important thing is love God, love yourself, love thy neighbor as thyself. If you can make that an exercise, a lifetime exercise, so no matter what you're going through, when you're going through pain, if you're too old, or people say you're too old to get married, or you're too old, the doctor says your biological clock is ticking, or whatever it is that they say, it doesn't matter what the world says to you. If you can turn that and say, I'm going to be kind to myself, or if, you will forgive yourself, for whatever journey you took, that you took the wrong path, and then you turn around and you just take a journey and learn how to be kind to yourself. Through kindness, you grow, right? And while you're on the journey and you're learning to be kind to those who are not kind, you mature, yeah? And in the process of being kind to self and forgiving yourself, you set yourself free for opportunities to come your way. And then when they come, you're kind to them. So if it's an adoption, if it's an IVF, if it's a fostering, if it's whatever, you are mother. My foster son and fell in love with this girl, and he got her pregnant. So I'm a grandmother. So from starting really, really late, I ended up catching up with everybody. From being, I have four boys around me, and they all call me mum, and I am mum, because there is no one else on the planet of the earth that can take that position. There is no other. I am, and what is a mother? What is a parent? We are asked to be custodians, to bring them up and then hand them back into the world well trained. So we are mothers. Mother takes different forms, and you can carry the baby in your womb. You don't have to, but whichever journey you choose, be kind. If you're kind to yourself, you won't critique yourself too harshly. You will probably go to those orphanages and take those beautiful kids that are waiting. Please, you might take on those ones who have been, COVID-19 might often, we don't know what's going to happen. They're going to need parenting. If you're kind to yourself, you share your income. Hey, you can't have it all for yourself. I mean, this COVID-19 has shown us that we can live with little, and we don't need that much, and so, like Victoria Grace is a sustainable brand. I walk to the market and then I see children dying. I gather them and I house them. The brand houses them and gives them a new life and reunites them with their family. So I'm helping people who are part of the Victoria Grace community to share with being kind. If you're living in a prosperous country, you don't see the poor that much, but I see what you buy here sponsors a whole load of children and families that are housed, and it smiles. So my hashtag is click and buy. It puts a smile. Be kind, share your wealth. This world we're in here together, it's far more enjoyable when you share this world and you take care of the planet, and you're kind to the planet, you're kind to yourself, you're kind to others. Some of my clothes and my baskets are made from inmates, prisoners. Wow. There is no harder challenge than to be kind to a prisoner. Well, that's me. There's no bigger beauty than to see an inmate feel that they have been considered, that love could trickle into the world and touch them in their dark place. And it's a beautiful sight. And they make a lot of our clothes. They weave for us, they make baskets for us, and the money goes to their legal costs and goes to their families who they've let down, particularly men, and some women and children, and we sponsor in the prison. So the one word is be kind to yourself and to those around you.
Thank you so much. Well, you guys have heard my good friend Jennifer talk about her journey and how she's overcome pain. And the key word here is just to be kind to yourself and and from being kind to yourself, that filters down to others around you. Jennifer, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed Togo. I'm sure we'll be touching base very, very soon. I love you for doing this, and I really appreciate the kind words you've spread around to many, many others. And we'll be in touch very soon and speak to you soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Lots of kisses.
Well done. Congratulations on all you're doing.
Thank you.
See you.
Thank you. See you soon. Bye.